Welcome back. Starbucks is one of the latest to join the growing list of U.S. companies suspending operations in Russia following the invasion of Ukraine. The move comes after pressure mounted for the fast food company to pull out of the country. And McDonald's also announced today it would temporarily close all 850 of its locations in Russia. McDonald's CEO Chris Kempczinski wrote an open letter to franchisees and employees announcing the move, adding, quote, "It's impossible to predict when we might be able to reopen our restaurants in Russia." McDonald's will continue paying its 62,000 employees based in Russia, and Ronald McDonald House charities in the country will continue to fully operate. Meanwhile, Amazon is also following suit. AWS said it will no longer accept new customers based in Russia and Belarus. Shopify is making a similar move and said today it is temporarily suspending operations in Russia and Belarus as well and pausing fee collection for Ukrainian merchants and partners.
Well, as you know, it's International Women's Day today, and according to BNY Mellon Investment Management, women could add more than $3 trillion to global investments. So what are the barriers hindering women investors? Well, I'll explore that now with Stephanie Pearce, CEO of Dreyfus, Mellon Exchange-Traded Funds at BNY Mellon Investment Management. Thank you for joining me today. Now, you've identified three main barriers that stop women investing: income, the perception that it's inherently high risk, and what you call the engagement crisis. Break down what's behind this and what could be done to really get over some of these barriers.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on this auspicious day of International Women's Day. And as you said, this was a fascinating and groundbreaking piece of research by BNY Mellon Investment Management, one of the largest and most expansive of its kind. We surveyed over 8,000 women and men around the world in 16 different countries. And there were some amazing conclusions in terms of why women don't invest at the same rate as men. But before I get into those, I would just say one thing. If there's one takeaway from this research, it is that now is the time to create a more inclusive investment world for generations today and generations to come. So let me break down that barrier set that you described. The first one that we found is that women feel that there's a very high income barrier to investing in the markets. So as an example, we found that women globally felt that they needed $4,000 or more in disposable income. That's $50,000 a year to invest in the markets at all. In the US, that number is even higher. It was over $6,000 a month or $72,000 a year of disposable income that women felt that they needed to start investing in the market. So why is that? Well, women feel in our survey that investing is inherently high risk, and many of the women we survey don't feel that they are high risk takers. And then the third barrier that we found is really around engagement. And from a financial industry perspective, we have some work to do, as women don't necessarily feel that the products and services, the benefits and how they're described really appeal to their needs. And one of the key needs that we discovered, and this gets back to your number of 3.2 trillion, is that women want to not only invest to do well financially, but also to do good. And so if women were to invest at the same rate as men, what we found is that 3.2 trillion could find its way into invested markets globally. And of that, 1.87 trillion of it would likely find its way into sustainable or responsible investments that align with women's goals and objectives.
So then, as you mentioned there, this impactful investing that aligns with people's personal values and really having a clear purpose, that's something that really does affect your attitudes towards investing. So then how does that affect the success of their investments if there are perhaps more lucrative investments that they could make instead from, say, a fund manager's perspective?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned fund managers, and I want to come back to that in terms of what the industry can be doing to appeal to women. But specifically, I think what we find in our industry is that there's no longer a differential between what used to be called mission-based investing or investing to do good, where you assumed you weren't necessarily going to make a market or better return, and investing in a sustainable or values-based fashion. Today, I think most would conclude that you can do well by doing good and not sacrifice return. And I think generally one of the challenges that the industry really needs to take on as part of the call to action from our research is to demonstrate that in a successful way in plain English or plain whatever language it is around the world to investors, to make them feel more comfortable that what they're doing from a financial perspective will also do good and align with purpose and values.
Now, it's interesting. One of your other findings was talking about asset managers. 73% of the ones that you surveyed believe the investment industry would be able to engage more women to invest if the industry itself had more female fund managers who could also serve as role models. But then what could be done to change that pipeline then so that more women can reach that level?
It's a very good point. The survey indicated that about 10% of investment managers, portfolio managers, and analysts of the asset managers that we surveyed, which is worth about $60 trillion in managed assets, have that's about 10% is the female population of investors at these firms. So we have some work to do here for women to see themselves as sort of future investors, practitioners in the industry. And so one of the calls to action that we believe our industry really needs to take on, and we are doing this directly today at BNY Mellon Investment Management, is to invest in girls at an early age and show them through mentorship, through role modeling, the careers they can have in this industry. For me personally, I manage about $850 billion across our index, ETF, and cash businesses. And we worked very hard when we launched our ETF business to establish a fund board for our ETFs of 50% women. In addition, the leadership team for my organization is about 75% women. So we've really tried to send that message all the way through the organization and to our clients that we understand the importance of diversity. And this is an issue that we want to tackle head on. And we're showing it by walking the walk.
And just very quickly, you showed that 9 in 10 asset managers admit that their default investment customer, the person that they automatically target with their products, is a man. So for women who are trying to get into this investment space, if they're not being targeted by these fund managers, how should they go about getting in? How, since they already think they need about $4,000 to start, how do they get in from the ground?
Well, it really starts from the bottom up, right? So one of the things we're thinking about is how do we target and help girls that are, 6 to 10, 12 years old to understand that there are people, myself included, I've been in the industry over 30 years, many of my senior team have been as well, that are doing this, that maybe when we were 5 or 10, no one was talking to us about it. How do we start to have those conversations and demonstrate that there are people that look and feel just like them are doing this today? But there's another piece, right? So not the practitioners, but actually as customers, as you said, the industry has some work to do to really demonstrate that in simple language, these investments are both good for the financial returns of the client, but also can be contributing to the responsible and sustainable goals that many women have. And that's the language that we use. It's the features and benefits that we describe for the products and solutions, and ultimately the solutions themselves. We have some work to do, I think, to really make that more real for women, and that's a big goal for me and my organization and all of BNY Mellon.